only wants you to make good beer and have fun hanging out with your friends. Here's Dono. Today on the program, one of my favorite winter types of beers is a hoppy lager. I have done it so many times, and now with the cold IPA, it's just a variation of that. One of the main differences is it may include some rice, as you can see in this iteration, which is actually from earlier 2024, and now I'm brewing in late November 2024 another similar type of beer. Oh, now this one I did do the sugar, so I'm not doing the sugar. I've got 3 pounds of rice with 11 pounds of pills that I'm gonna do today. Now honestly, I was gonna dial that up and I was gonna do 4 pounds of rice or 5, but I don't have any rice hulls, and I did not want to deal with stuck sparges and things like that, and I can't just go to the brew store like I used to be able to, but I know that most of you don't have a local homebrew store either. So I am gonna just do 3 pounds, and I feel like that should lauder just fine. I did have a friend who is about 20 minutes from, there is a local area brew store that would be like 45 minutes for me, but my friend is 20 minutes from there, and I did have him buy me some different things so I can make a few batches, and then he's about a 20-minute drive from me, so that's better than driving 45 minutes each way. So I'm going to bitter with Magnum. After the boil, I'm going to put in this Amarillo, let that sit for 15 minutes, then I'll put in this CTZ. I have a washed yeast portion of Global Imperial Lager. I actually just made the starter this morning, and I'm actually doing all of the brewing at once today, which is not how I usually do it. So depending on how the starter looks, I might, once I get it chilled, get the wort chilled, I might just leave it for like a few more hours and then pitch the yeast, assuming that that additional time might help the starter get even more active and reproducing. But yeah, anyway, I wanted to make like a cold India rice lager or India rice lager type of a thing, but India pale rice lager, IPL, but and it does have some rice, but it doesn't have like that kind of 40% spot that I think I did for my pure rice lager. But anyway, see how it goes. It has been an hour, just over actually, and I think it's a little fuller than I normally have. I had more gallons of wort to begin with than I usually do. And I did boil some in 2 pots on a stove, like I do. So I might end up with a little more than 5 gallons. Which is, I know a lot of people want to get like 5.5 or more. But anyway, this is going to be a 15-minute deal for this Amarillo. And it's 50 degrees in here. It's not super cold, but I'm hoping that maybe it can cool down to closer to 180 after the 15 minutes. I don't even know if I'll bother taking the temperature, and then add in the CTZ. So it's been 15 minutes. I did actually take a reading because I was too curious, and it was 185. So close to 180, close-ish, close enough. The idea is that these hops are even higher in alpha acid, and I probably have sufficient bitterness in here already with the Magnum boil and the Amarillo post boil and now this, so I'm just trying not to make it overly bitter, but hopefully have some good hop character. So I wondered about using this because I only made it about 4 hours ago, but as you can see, it's already bubbling up pretty actively, and I would rather just get it in there, so I think that's what we're gonna do. Alright, so we've got a gravity of about, it's gonna be about 1070 or just over, and I just did a shot of this yeast. I still have to do the aeration, but I think I can go ahead and add this in and then do that. Otherwise, we're going to be trying to keep it, you know, if it was a cold IPA, then you're supposed to ferment the lager yeast a little bit warmer. I mean, it doesn't really matter. I'll probably keep it roughly in the range of, like, the yeast range is like 46 to 56 or something, so I'll try to keep it, you know, in the upper 50s, probably, and hopefully this will be a good beer. Whoop! Almost pitched the stir bar. Here it is the next morning, and we do have activity, so I do have a good seal on this lid, but what's interesting is the nature of what I'm seeing here is a little peculiar. It looks like the Kreuzen, I caught it just as it's forming, and instead of it being like all kind of solid, it has like these bubbles, pockets. Anyway, I mean, you look at it and you're like, oh, that looks like it could be infected, which, I mean, I really don't see how that would be possible, since I did it everything else like I always do, but we'll keep an eye on it. So now it's about, I don't know, 8 hours since I did the previous video, and I still do have a seal, but more importantly, it looks a lot more like what you want it to look like, and it's 53 degrees with just these 2 ice jugs and this blanket covering the top, so all good.
These hops are so flavory.
Alright, so here is the...
Like me in the video.
Well, if you have thoughts, you can weigh in either on or off camera, but we can see what happens. So, here we go. India Rice Lager, cold IPA, cold India Rice Lager, India Pale Lager.
Needs more adjectives.
Yeah, it's
We're
dumb.
calling it curl. Hey, girl.
We're overdoing it.
Hey,
Cheers.
girl, hey.
Welcome back to the tree. 1071 to 1012. I wondered if, which I think 1012 is acceptable, but I wondered if it didn't go a little bit lower because I only made the yeast starter about 4 hours before using it, which is not something I would normally do. I thought it was better than no starter, but that's not enough hours for the yeast to multiply. It sort of was just enough time to let them kind of whatever, like wake up, you know, like activate superpowers. But, so yeah, I went to 1012. Sometimes these beers do go, you know, 1010, 1008, 1009. But it still is a good beer. 11 pounds of pills, 3 pounds of rice. As I mentioned, I might have pushed it higher on the rice to make it more of like an India rice lager. Like Dustin, his got kind of high when we did the rice lagers.
Yeah.
His got like 1065 or something.
I think.
Magnum bittering, and then at the end of the boil, 1 ounce of Amarillo, and then that was 15 minutes, and then 1 ounce of CTZ. What do you guys get from the hops, flavor, any aromas?
I get like just a really oily, kind of like piney compound. I don't know.
Okay.
You said dank.
I did, yeah.
It's dank.
I get a little dankness, and then I get, at one time I was getting like the grapefruit, kind of that edge of the citrus, instead of like not really like tangerine, ripe orange, but more of that lemon grapefruit.
I can see ruby red grapefruit.
Or like pit.
I can see that.
Ruby red grapefruit.
Yeah.
Amarillo said to contribute flowery, spicy, tropical, citrus, orange, lemon, grapefruit, melon, apricot, peach.
I didn't
It's
see
a
just
lot of
orange.
fruit.
I
It's
just
a
heard
lot.
orange a lot of times.
For Amarillo.
I didn't know it had that range depending on usage.
CTZ contributes black pepper, licorice, curry, which is a really weird friggin' descriptor. Citrus, dank, earthy, woody. I will put a check mark for my taste buds on like the woody, the earthy, kind of like a spicy pepperiness that maybe is from that. It's not any combination that it's just something, we got this store that is within reach of here now, a local homebrew store, so my friend goes there, so he's like closer, so I'm like, just sent him some list of some hops to get, just like, have together, instead of, otherwise we don't have a local homebrew store anymore. And so, yeah, those were 3, Magnum, Emerald,
Within reach is very
CTZ.
generous of you.
Well, he's 20 minutes away, I'm 20 minutes away from him, so it's like 40,
Like
45
homebrew
from me.
ingredient relay race.
Basically, yeah. So, yeah.
I remember you riding your bike to Northern Brewer.
The store?
Yeah.
It's like 1.3 miles.
Back in the day.
Yeah, I walked there before too. I mean, that's not far. It wasn't far. R.I.P. Now, 3 pounds of rice. What do you guys think? Like, I do think this beer still has like this honey sweetness to it, which I assume is from I guess the malt, but also maybe, I don't know, is the lager yeast?
Your atrociously high residual
Yeah, I know.
gravity.
Epic failure on the fermentation. But it has like a pretty good bitterness, but it also has like, I think this kind of like the sweet note. It isn't like a West Coast, doesn't drink like a dry, bitter, hoppy beer, right? You agree?
I would agree. Like, this isn't as vanishingly dry as some of your other beers. Whether that's
IPLs.
Or, those beers have a sweetness though too.
But since we've been working with rice so much this summer, I now know more now what that its flavor is, and it comes back to like when we did those rice lagers. It was so like Krispy Kreme donut glaze. So it's not honey, but it's almost like
No, you're right.
frosting-y.
You're right, it isn't like it makes it overly dry just because you're using rice.
Right.
It does perhaps give its
Right.
own kind of flavor.
And your residual sweetness from a grist like this, I think, is going to be different than from just a malt grist. So I do think.
But do you think it made
Honey,
it like, it is
frosting.
light-ish in color. It is only
Oh, for
pills
sure.
and rice. It's lighter than this Helles that we just drank before this.
true.
And like my rice lager, which was 40% rice, that thing was as light in color as anything I've ever
Oh
brewed.
yeah, dude, that was.
And
so
this
cool.
isn't quite there. Now, do you think that this beer, 14 pounds, 40% of that is like 5 pounds of rice? Like, do you think I could have, I didn't have any rice hulls, and that's why I did not add more than 3 pounds. I just thought that would lauder okay, and it did. But what do you think if I was to not
Bump it up.
Yeah, add more rice or leave the pills the same, or
What did Aaron tell us when we went to Arbiter and drank your Toki versus?
he was
talking
pushing like closer to
about
50?
I think he kind of said a goal was 60. He was like,
Percent rice?
I think so.
I don't remember exactly.
But my point being, I think 50.
But yeah,
not
this
out of
is
the question.
like roughly 20, 25. Or no, it's more than 25. Whatever. 3 out of 14.
Math.
So, what do you, I mean, would that be a dumb idea? Would it be a fun idea?
In
Fun.
the immortal words of Bo and Luke Duke, there ain't but one way to find out, cousin.
Yeah!
I would just
More
offer
rice.
that this is another successful kind of installment of your IPL
Right.
series in general over
Right.
the last, I don't know, 5+ years, definitely.
Oh yeah, I've been doing those a long time. I mean, it is like also a low risk experiment. Like it's like experiment in the sense that I haven't used this much rice in this type of beer, but it's not gonna make it like bad. I like it. It has kind of a bitter finish.
Mm-hmm.
Nice hopping.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Good work.
All right. Well, I guess that's
Well,
about
thanks
that.
to the mule. What's your mule's name? Roger?
Paul.
Paul.
Paul. Yeah.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
Yeah, I got enough
Shout out Beermeister.
specialty ingredients and hops for at least 3 batches from his muling, and then we've sourced like all this other malt and
Premium
yeast.
pills. This is premium pills that we got.
This one I don't
Don't
know. I think I don't have it on this sheet, but it's on my brew log. It maybe was like a combo of a little bit left of North Star and then a little bit of premium pills. So that's,
Pills salad.
that's a possibility.
I had a pill salad once. It got me in a lot of trouble.
Pills. Pills.
I have 6 pounds War North Star, 5 pounds War Premium.
Wow, says the man off screen. Well, my memory was right. Andy from Northbound, thank you.
Thanks, Andy.
He can make an appearance.
Hello.
Do you like?
Do you like the beer,
Isn't
Andy?
it acceptable
Oh,
beer?
yes, I quite enjoy it.
All right. Yes, thumbs up. It's like Nardbar. Now we all like pause for Nardbar. All right. Yeah. Anyway, that'll do it. I think that'll work.
Doot doot doot.
Doot doot.
Brew.
Doot doot doot.
Yay.